back to season 2, episode 2 of Plant-Based Besties. How are you doing, Joey?
Deb, I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Episode 2. So the new year is underway. We had our first podcast. Now we're into our second one, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm really excited about today's podcast.
Yep, it's going to be exciting. Now, I know we talk a lot about protein. We talk about protein ad nauseum. It's the thing this year. You hear it everywhere. Eat your protein, eat your protein. And which protein is very important, but we also need fiber. Fiber is just as essential as protein. I don't know. Do you feel that way, Joey?
Yeah, I do, and I'm going to tell you why. But yes, I do feel that way.
Yeah, and they do go hand in hand, and we're going to talk about that today, why it's important to include both, not only for your gut health, but it helps with muscle synthesis. And I think we have a couple clips that we're going to show as well.
Yep, we sure are.
Okay, great. So why don't you tell us why fiber matters?
All right, first let me show you these clips right here.
Fiber is the new protein, at least in terms of a nutrient that people should be focused on when building and maintaining muscle, according to this research. From this study, higher fiber intake is associated with more muscle mass.
You have to be able to consume insoluble fiber to actually feed your gut. And it's the one that you can't get around. You can drink a green drink. I love AG. You love AG. We can all drink those things. And we're getting a lot of the vitamins and we're even getting the phytochemicals. But the fiber you can't get in volume in that.
All right, so why fiber matters with plant protein? Just simple, beginner-friendly. First, a lot of us, maybe not a lot of us, but Deb, you and I came from a high-starch diet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that high-starch diet, we got a lot of fiber, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're eating beans and all that stuff, right? And, we weren't getting a lot of protein. We were getting protein, but not enough, which is why we made the pivot. But I got to tell you, my digestion on a high-starch diet was on the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you feel the same way?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, things went through, like, immediately. Like, if I had to sit down and do my business, I was there maybe 3 minutes and I was done, probably once or twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. There was never any, like, backup. Everything just flowed. And, this may sound, like, pretentious, but, like, when I was using the restroom and left, like, there was no, like, smell, right? Like, because, we're not eating, like, stuff that's backed up. Your colon isn't backed up, so there's nothing rotting, right? Because
Right, you're not eating dead animals.
Yeah, well, that too, but because fiber just passes, right?
Right.
So, I took all of that for granted. I just thought that's how digestion is, right? And there you go. But not the case, right? So if you're eating more plant proteins, but struggling with digestion, energy, or fat, you probably are missing fiber. Fiber is probably the missing link because, like Deb said, protein's been getting all the spotlight, right? But fiber, what makes plant proteins work better. And it's especially important as we age. When digestion, muscle retention, and metabolism change, fiber's there. Fiber's your friend, and it's the tool that you need to kind of help it along. So, 2026, it's a new year. It's the year of building strength from inside out, starting with the gut. And, fiber is so important for your gut microbiome, right? That's all the good stuff that it needs to do the good things, right? We know a lot of this. If you were on a high starch diet, then you're familiar with this part.
So why fiber matters with plant protein, and this is really good for beginners. Fiber feeds your gut, and your gut controls everything. It's like your second brain almost. And fiber, it feeds your good gut bacteria. It's where your immune system lives, probably about 80% of your immune system. And it improves your digestion, it reduces inflammation, and it helps your body use protein more efficiently, which is what we want. So a healthier gut, better nutrient absorption equals better muscle building. So really important.
Yeah, Dr. Will Bolshewitz, who you and I both follow, the Gut Health MD on Instagram, he goes into detail in his book.
Fiber Fueled?
Fiber Fueled. Yeah, I'm like, what the hell's the name of the book? I have 2 copies of it. He goes into details about how that all works, about how the gut is your second brain, about how there's all these organisms live in your body, in your gut. We can only digest, I think, 500 types of, like, foods, and then everything else is digested by these microbes that are not really part of us. They live there, but they're different organisms, right? And he goes into detail about when you feed them fiber, the good stuff, you get good results. And when you feed them the bad stuff, right, you get bad results. And
Yeah.
you want to feed the ones that give you the results you want, and that's fiber. And he talks about in his book in detail about having prebiotics and postbiotics, no, prebiotics and probiotics to create postbiotics, which are short chain fatty acids, which are the end result, what you want for cleaning up the gut, having the right fiber and building muscle and all of that stuff. So he's really good about explaining all of that. And the gut is really where it all comes down to. If you don't have a healthy gut microbiome, then you're not going anywhere, right?
Right. And if you're a kind of person that gets sick a lot, you might want to look to your gut and see what you're eating and that you're feeding the good bacteria in there.
For sure. So fiber helps your body use protein for muscle. So, you and I, we're getting plenty of protein because we're getting older and we just need it. And we've gone into this over and over again. But what does fiber have to do with this, right? I'm getting the protein. Well, why do I need, what's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Well, fiber is part of the equation, right? Muscle
Yeah.
protein synthesis isn't just about eating protein. It's about digesting and absorbing it as well. Enter fiber, right?
Yeah.
So fiber slows digestion just enough for better amino acid uptake. It helps stabilize blood sugar, reduces muscle breakdown. Think of fiber as the delivery system for plant protein. One of the clips we played here earlier just sums it up really well. By having the fiber with the protein, you don't get the spike if you had something that doesn't have any fiber, right?
The blood sugar spike.
Right, the sugar spike. Instead, it slows it down, which is a much more gradual increase and then downcrease again. And it isn't havoc on your body. So having the fiber is a big part. Deb, remember when everyone was doing the green juicing after they all saw Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead? Did you do that?
Yeah.
And we're like juicing kale and juicing carrots, and we're throwing the fiber away. Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah.
And at some point, I was like, isn't this the stuff that we need? Right.
Yeah.
And it is. You're better off making a smoothie out of all that than juicing it because,
Correct. Yeah.
right. And if you ever on Weight Watchers counts green juice or any of those juices as a lot of points. But if you were to take the same amount of vegetables and throw them in the blender, it counts it as 0 points. And the reason it does that is because the fiber aids in the digestion and winds up being 0 points. But if you don't get the fiber, then you're missing all the part about the digestion and it's a lot more points. So I don't know if you knew that or not, but yeah.
I wasn't a big Weight Watchers person, but I have heard of points.
Yeah.
Okay, another great thing about fiber and plant protein is it's a natural appetite control, which, as you know, Joey, it really helps reduce cravings and snacking. Like you said, it prevents those blood sugar spikes and the crashes, and it keeps you fuller longer.
All right, so Deb, funny you should say that because, I use Chronometer and I track all my macros, and people online would tell me that I'm OCD and that I'm triggering them because they don't want to track stuff, and I'm going to cause people to have eating disorders. I've heard all of this stuff because I'm tracking my macros, right? Okay, well, the deal is there's a reason I track it. 1, I want to make sure I'm getting my protein. 2, I don't want to go over my calories. 3, I track my fiber also, right?
Me too.
And I absolutely, yeah. So here's the deal. I have at least one meal a day that is solely for fiber. And usually it's a fiber type cereal. And I have that loaded with, just the dry cereal with the plant milk. And I load it up with strawberries because they're full of fiber for the calories, and blueberries because they're full of fiber. And I get like 40 grams of fiber from this bowl of cereal. I don't get a lot of protein from it, but that meal isn't there for protein. And I do this every day, right? And I add this to my my meals every day. I plan this all out so I stay under my calories and I get my 120 grams of protein. And in the end of the day, I wind up with like 70 grams of fiber between the meals I ate with the protein plus the meal with the fiber. I know. So, the average daily requirement or the minimum is something like 25.
It's 25.
I know. Is that ridiculous? Like that's not enough to do anything. So, and then when we were on starch-based diet, we were getting like 100, right? So, I kind of feel like 70 is my minimum. So that's what I do every day. I have at least one meal that has nothing to do with protein, that is just fiber. Because, Deb, if I don't have that, when I first started switching over to protein and didn't worry about fiber, suddenly, for the first time in
Yeah.
years, I was starting to get backed up. And I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on? And I realized very quickly that I need to have more fiber. So,
I don't get quite that much, but I get about 45.
yeah.
And that, you have to find out what works for you. And please do not start off with 70 grams of fiber if you're not
No.
used to it.
Right.
No, do not do that. But that's why it's important to track it. And it's on the back of everything, your pasta or whatever. It'll say how much fiber. So yeah.
And you're right, because some of that fiber outside of that protein, outside of that fiber meal, comes from fiber-based pastas like chickpea pastas and all that stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you're right about don't start off at 70, because when I switched from a starch-based diet to a protein-based diet, about a week or two in, like I had just said, I realized digestion was off, and I was like, "Oh, I just need more fiber," and I went right back to eating as much fiber as I used to, and holy smoke!
Oh yeah.
I was in cramps for days. I thought I was dying. And I was like, wait a minute. I used to eat 100 grams of fiber every day with no problem. Now I'm trying to get
Yeah.
40 grams in and I'm dying here.
Right.
So what happened? And your body quickly adapts back or forth. So you're right. I had to slowly build that back up again.
Right.
Because I had gone so long without really having a lot of fiber every day. But, once you're at that point, you build up, you're fine. So yeah, what Deb said is very important.
Yeah, and if you're someone that has like IBS or, check with your doctor, just don't, it's really important that you do check with your doctor if you're going to all of a sudden be increasing your
Yes.
fiber, because you don't want to get in trouble with your digestion and all that. It, like Joey said, it can be really painful.
It was. And Deb and I aren't doctors. We're just telling you, some information that we know of based on our experiences. But for sure, you don't want to make any change without checking with your doctor. Now,
Right.
Another great thing about fiber is it supports fat loss through the gut, right?
Right.
A fiber-rich gut improves insulin sensitivity, like we talked about, but it also lowers inflammation linked to belly fat, which is really cool. It helps regulate hunger hormones. When you have fiber, you're full, right? It's one of the
Yeah.
things that, and fiber just fills you up inside your stomach, which is great. It's why a lot of like junk foods, you'll eat packaged foods and an hour later you're hungry because there was zero fiber in it. Like,
Yeah,
there's
like you
nothing.
can eat a whole bag of potato chips and it's like nothing.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you had a bunch of calories, right? But you
Right.
didn't fill your stomach up, right?
Right.
So many people stuck in fat loss are under eating fiber, not overeating calories. And it's so true. I mean, they are overeating calories because they're eating stuff without fiber. Now they got to go back and eat the fiber. But if they've just eaten stuff, like if you take something with 400 calories, right, with no fiber, and then you take 400 calories loaded with fiber, the 400 calories loaded with fiber is going to keep you full like half the day, right? So you're
Right.
not going to overeat your calories in the end of the day with a 400 calories with no fiber. In an hour and a half, you're going to be starving and you're going to go over your calories. So,
Yeah.
while it is about you're overeating you're overeating your calories because you're undereating your fiber, right?
Exactly.
And I feel like there's so many comorbidities out there, heart disease and all that, that have to do with not getting enough fiber. And here's one of the issues. I have this neighbor here. I'm going to call her Ruby because I don't want to use her name. And she'll text me and go, "Hey, you walk around the neighborhood with me?" And I'm like, "Okay." And we'll walk around the neighborhood. We do 2 miles and we chit chat. And it goes by very fast, right? Now, she's a swimmer. She's in about my age, I guess, in her 60s. She's a swimmer. She looks healthy. She doesn't look like she's like got any problems or whatever. And then I got a text from her one day, like during November, that says, "Can you get my mail from my house? There was a package left. I can't get it. I'm in the hospital." And I was like,
Oh,
"Holy
wow.
smoke, what happened?" She goes, "I'll tell you all about it when I get home." So she comes by to pick up her mail, and I go, "What happened?" And she goes, "I went to the hospital. I thought I was like having problems and pains and dying." And she goes, "And it turns out I was backed up." And I was like, "What do you mean you were backed up?" And she's like, "I wasn't able to go to the bathroom." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, are you getting enough fiber?" And she goes, "Well, apparently not."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my," and she was in the hospital for 5 days.
Yeah,
Like,
you can die
oh my
from that.
gosh.
Yes.
So, there's all of these like health issues related to not being able to poop because you're not getting enough fiber.
Yeah.
So,
Colon cancer is another one.
yeah. So
Yeah.
fiber is so important. My mom stayed with us one year, and she was like, she has that those little things on your intestines and all of that. I forget what that's called. Yes,
Diverticulosis.
yes. Oh my God! Of course you know. You're a nurse. Uh,
Remember, I am an RN.
so I go, and then so she's here, and she's here for a week, and she has no problem. Now, this was during my starch-based phase, right? So
Right.
she's eating beans, she's eating all this stuff, right? And she's eating more she's ever had, and she's lost like 3 pounds. She's like, I don't understand what the hell's going on. Like I've lost weight, like I feel healthy. What's going on? And I said, Mom, let me look up diverticulitis real quick. And I looked it up, and the way to stop diverticulitis, or the way to be in remission, which you probably know, is fiber, right?
Yep.
Fiber keeps it moving. It stops that from happening. And she's like, I had no idea. She's just taking pills, right, to stay off
Yeah.
it. It was like, Mom,
Yeah.
you need fiber. That's why you have this. So Deb, fiber, like, so
It wins
important.
every time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every time, right? I wonder, there's probably not a lot of people, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but there's probably not a lot of unhealthy people who are getting loads of fiber, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. So fiber also protects muscle during weight loss, which is really important because you don't want to lose that muscle that you work so hard to get.
Right.
So when when you're in a calorie deficit, then your muscle is often the first to go, especially after 50, like you're in menopause and all that. But fiber helps reduce stress hormones. It helps with protein utilization. It it preserves lean mass while fat loss is happening. And this is how we lose weight without losing strength. And this is really the best if you're a beginner to do the fiber friendly and protein combos. Simple foods like beans and vegetables, lentils and greens, tofu or tempeh with your vegetables like broccoli and cabbage,
Yep.
oats and chia or flax, smoothies with berries, greens, plant protein. All these things are just natural packages of plant protein with fiber for a reason. As you were saying, Joey, when we were doing the starch solution and the starch-based diet, that how great our digestion is, and that's why, because of the high fiber.
Yeah, we just ate what was in nature, and I trust nature, so that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say you're listening to this and you're like, I got to get more fiber for 2026. It's a new year, it's a new me, new fiber, right? Which I think is great. So here's some things you could do. You can aim for fiber first, protein included. Don't isolate them. And that's what I was just saying. I aim for my protein every day, and I make sure I have a meal loaded with fiber, so I get them both, right?
Yes.
You can add one high fiber plant protein meal per day, which again is exactly what I'm doing. I'm just worrying about it in one meal, and I get it for the day.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
You can slowly increase fiber. You don't want to get the pain that I got after I came back to it. So, if you're getting 10 grams of fiber a day right now, increase it to 15 for the next week, right? And then the next week, increase it to 20. Just go slowly up, all right? You don't want to hurt yourself. That'll avoid bloating. And make sure you're getting plenty of water. When you're eating fiber,
That's
you
huge.
need to hydrate, right? Flush that stuff out, right?
Yep.
And then focus on whole foods, not perfection. You don't need to be perfection, but if you eat nature's whole foods, you're probably getting fiber anyway, right, Deb?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't need to. There's no such thing as perfection, so don't worry about that. So some simple takeaways for beginners is, protein builds muscle, like we talked about. Fiber makes protein work better. Together, they improve your gut health, they support fat loss, and they preserve strength as we age.
Which, as you and I know, is very important to us because we're aging. So, so there you go. All right, so that's kind of our podcast today, all about improving digestion with fiber. If your digestion improves, your fat loss improves, and your gut is stronger, your muscles will follow. This isn't about dieting. It's about fueling your body properly. And we encourage listeners to pick one fiber-rich protein meal this week, which is what we're doing. So, I mean, that's kind of where we are, Deb, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go eat a bowl of Brussels sprouts right now.
We are going to continue to focus on plant protein and fiber for men and women over 45 and 50 and up, like us, as we do the podcast, because that's what the podcast is about. It's about people aging. I want to say aging and vegan, but really, so many times, vegan really has nothing to do with what we're doing. It has to do with just aging and getting your protein and getting your fiber. But obviously, plants.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, obviously, plants protein the best, but because we're vegans. But if you just make a change, we're happy.
Right, exactly. And that's why eating a whole food diet if you eat a whole food diet, then you're going to get your fiber.
Yes.
That's, whole grains, vegetables, fruits, all that.
For sure.
Yep.
All right, Deb, I think this was a lot of information. Great podcast today. We got a lot out there. January's in. This is our second one. And
we're on our way.
We're in full force for 2026.
Yep, Scorpios unite. Woo! No.
I forget that we're both Scorpios because we're right after each other in our birthdays.
Yes.
In October, 2 days, a day after.
It's interesting, Joey, and I know I don't really believe in astrology. I mean, it's just fun to play with, but there's never been a Scorpio man that I ever got along with.
Really?
Yeah, you're the first one. Usually they're very full of themselves and arrogant, or at least the ones I've known. So right. I'm like, that's when I found out you were a Scorpio. I'm like, really? Okay, well, good job.
I think that only applies to Scorpio straight men. So.
All right. You might be right.
Thanks.
All
right, folks. Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Please leave us a 5-star review, letting them know how great it was so we can continue the podcast. We love doing this. And please share if you can. We would love that. And we appreciate you guys.
Very much. And be sure to watch it on my YouTube channel.
Yes.
You can see us, talking in real life. So we're excited and we can't wait for next month. We'll have, hopefully we'll have a special guest. We're working on it right now.
Yep.
And we'll see you on the next one.
All right, folks. See you next time.
Right.
Take care.
Right.
Bye-bye.